Next on the news, thousands are preparing to march for life this Friday. But even before the demonstration for the unborn, the Diocese of Brooklyn has been defending babies in the womb.
Despite doctors' orders to abort, Laura Vasquez decided to choose life, and now her daughter is thriving. I'm Katie Vasquez, and I'll have that story coming up.
Donald Trump is back in office, and already he has signed a number of executive orders. One has caught the attention of Pope Francis. Plus, Catholics remember the life and legacy of Martin Luther King Jr. I'm Christine Persichetti. Currents News starts right now. It's quiet in the nation's capital now, but in just a few days, thousands of pro-lifers will be there, loud and proud, as they march for life. The Diocese of Brooklyn is planning to send a large group to the demonstration for the unborn. And before its kickoff this Friday, we are introducing you to the people who chose life despite pressure from pro-abortion advocates, which sometimes includes doctors and hospitals. One Queens couple is happy they went against doctors' orders because they now have a daughter who has defied the odds. Currents News' Katie Vasquez has their story from Howard Beach.
Her brothers.
In 1996, Laura Vasquez learned she was pregnant.
Yeah.
It was a moment of joy for her and her husband, Andrew Rios.
To me, carrying life was God's gift.
I just broke down in tears.
Laura says she had a difficult pregnancy with multiple hospital stays. At one point, she and her husband had a chilling discussion with doctors.
I remember hearing the words terminate, and I said, excuse me, what do you mean by terminate?
It took all of about 30 seconds to decide, that's not an option for us.
The parishioners at St. Helen's Church in Howard Beach leaned on their faith and viewed their daughter as a miracle child when she was born. But days later, doctors noticed some issues.
Her eyes are rolling up. We want to do a CAT scan of her brain.
It took 2 years of tests to get a diagnosis, a rare genetic disorder called Cornelia de Lange syndrome.
Failure to thrive is one of the conditions. Delayed in walking, delayed in talking. So she checked the boxes for all of those.
Isabella is now 28 years old and has defied the odds.
Doing everything exactly that they said she would never be able to.
She loves to dance and do puzzles, just like anyone her age.
Isabella has a love for life. She loves to go out. She loves to shop.
And although she has limitations, her parents say they always knew God wouldn't give them more than they could handle.
The phone rings and she video calls and hi, Daddy. That's the best part of my day.
No matter what, I'm going to do everything that I can just to make her live a sound life. So you like
the Catholic couple happy they chose life because they now have the light of their lives. In Howard Beach, Katie Vasquez, Currents News.
The diocese is already celebrating life, holding their annual Pro Vita Mass this Sunday. Brooklyn Bishop Robert Brennan leading the celebration that honors community members and local members of the Knights of Columbus for their contributions to the pro-life movement. Also at the liturgy, Bishop Brennan blessed a new statue of their founder, Blessed Michael McGivney. The Knights raised $70,000 to buy 11 statues for each cathedral in New York. This will be the second statue in the Diocese of Brooklyn. As we do every year, we will bring you full coverage of the March for Life. Just tune in this Friday, January 24th at 11:45 a.m. for a live update. We'll hear from John Lavenberg and Currents News' Katie Vasquez, who will be in the nation's capital reporting on the pro-life demonstration. And of course, for full coverage of the March for Life, tune in later that night, Friday, January 24th at 7 p.m. for Currents News. Newly sworn-in President Donald Trump started day 2 of his second term in prayer, attending an interfaith service at D.C.'s National Cathedral. Catholic Chris Macchio leading the congregation in song for part of the service, which included leaders from nearly a dozen different religions. The prayers are part of an inauguration tradition that dates back as far as 1933, when Franklin Roosevelt first became president. On day one of his second term, President Donald Trump hit the ground running, signing dozens of executive orders shortly after being sworn in. And Pope Francis is paying attention.
Does Biden ever do news conferences like this?
President Donald Trump is wasting no time reshaping the country, taking dozens of actions on his first day in office.
I'll revoke nearly 80 destructive and radical executive actions of the previous administration.
Among those revoked Biden orders, a directive that the federal government rebuild the refugee program. Instead, President Trump is suspending that program for now. He declared a national emergency at the southern border and effectively shut down asylum seeking there. He's also trying to limit the constitutional right to citizenship at birth. Pope Francis wrote to Trump on his inauguration day, wishing prosperity to the U.S. and asking that his leadership, quote, build a more just society where there is no room for hatred, discrimination, or exclusion. The Pope also asks the new president to be inspired by the values of his nation, characterized by being a land of opportunity and welcome for all. In an interview on Italian television on Sunday, the Holy Father said Trump's threat to begin a massive deportation of immigrants would be a disgrace. Trump is also removing the U.S. from the Paris Climate Agreement and the World Health Organization.
He walked in the White House and he did exactly what he said he was going to do.
Also, nearly all cases related to the January 6th Capitol riot are over. Trump pardoned more than 1,200 people convicted of related crimes. Meanwhile, before he signed them, the U.S. bishop spoke out about the executive orders, saying in a statement, quote, the Catholic Church's foundational teaching calls us to uphold the sacredness of human life and the God-given dignity of the human person. This means that the care for immigrants, refugees, and the poor is part of the same teaching of the Church that requires us to protect the most vulnerable among us, especially unborn children, the elderly, and the infirm. The Bishops' Conference will work with the Trump administration as well as the U.S. Congress to advance the common good for all, which will include instances of agreement as well as disagreement. A Diocese of Brooklyn priest was among those praying for the Trump presidency and the nation at the inauguration.
Almighty and eternal God, we gather here today in reverence, joined in
Father Frank Mann leading the ceremony's Catholic benediction. The retired Brooklyn priest and the president struck up a friendship years ago after Father Mann helped clean up the gravesite of Trump's parents at a Queens cemetery. You can read more about Father Mann's friendship with President Trump and about the commander-in-chief's first days in office online at thetablet.org. Finally, Catholics remembered the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. on Monday. The Diocese of Brooklyn held its annual Mass at St. Thomas Aquinas Church in Flatlands, organized by the diocese's Vicariate Office of Black Catholic Concerns. The liturgy looks to remember a man who created change through nonviolent means during a time of civil unrest. Bishop Brennan was the main celebrant, and Father Alonzo Cox, coordinator of the Vicariate, was the homilist. And that is this current news update. I'm Christine Persichetti. Thank you for joining us, because we are putting your faith in the news. Before we go, we leave you with a bit more of Father Mann's benediction from the inauguration. Hope to see you again next time.
As our President and Vice President embrace their newly appointed roles, we humbly implore that your everlasting love and wisdom will envelop them. Grant them the clarity of mind to navigate the challenges that lie ahead, and the compassion to serve all citizens with fairness and integrity. Let us go forth now with these words of President Trump's emblazoned on our hearts. As long as we have pride in our beliefs, courage in our convictions, and faith in our God, then we will not fail. We stand tall, we stand proud, because we are Americans, and Americans kneel to God and to God alone. Amen.